Hey guys, what's going on? It's Gunnar here, welcome back. Today I want to talk a little bit about creating more edge habitat. You know, it's getting towards the tree planting season, and I want to tell you and walk you through kind of some of the plans I have for this spring, going ahead and implementing habitat strategies, adding more habitat in the areas that lack it. Now, across the Midwest, big farming and big ag practices have removed a lot of the fence lines and the habitat for our bird species, our nesting habitat for turkeys. You know, we've seen a decline in turkey habitat and turkey populations in general, and I think a lot of that has to do with edge habitat, removing low to the ground nesting habitat and cover for these birds. And what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to add that back. You know, we've been doing a lot of predator control trapping with coons and possums and what have you to try to control those nest raiding animals, those predators. So what I've figured out is predator control is really important, but at the same time, we need to have habitat. We need to bring back our habitat that allows these birds to have successful nest hatching in the springtime. Now, a turkey nest hatch rate, from what I've read, is only 40% to begin with. Now, you add in your predation on that, that's not a very high number, and you don't have a lot of margin for error there. So I'm trying to implement all these different habitat structures so I can promote the highest nest rate success possible. Now, at the same time, deer are edge creatures. Deer follow contours and edges of different habitat. They follow edges and contours where the habitat changes. You know, diversity, that's where diversity comes in. But basically what I'm doing here is, you can see I'm standing along the edge of a fence line here. Now, this happens to be the property border, and we have some human activity on this side, on the neighbors. So basically what I'm doing is I'm gonna come in here with pine trees. I'm gonna be planting them 5 to 8, maybe 10 feet apart. So I get a nice tight screen edge cover along this fence line. Now, basically what I'm trying to do here is I'm just trying to create another edge, another highway or runway in a sense for wildlife. Now, deer are gonna follow this real nice and tight. I'm gonna add some diversity in here, maybe have an orchard edge in the future. But first and foremost, I need to screen this off. Guys, it's Gunnar, look. A lot of you guys have been talking to me, telling me how you need help. Well, I want to talk to you today about Whitetail coaching. One-on-one virtual coaching with me. We'll go in depth on whatever problems, whatever help you need. We'll find the solution you're looking for. Shoot me a text, 608-632-7233. 608-632-7233. I got your back for life. Now let's get back to the video. You know, I need to make the deer feel comfortable here that they're not getting that human pressure or that element of pressure right up next to here. So they're replacing that pressure element and that aspect with distance. They're creating distance between pressure. So what I'm doing here is I'm creating depth of cover. I'm adding cover in where there's pressure. So I'm making these deer and wildlife in general feel more secure, more comfortable moving along this area. Now I've got switchgrass. I got about a half acre of switchgrass right down here in an old pasture area. And at the same time, that orchard edge that I've been implementing already that took place last year that I started out with, I've showed you guys already, but that's coming right up here. Now I've got this corner here, a stand location, gonna go about 60 yards in front of me in a nice big oak tree in front of some apples. And at the same time, I'm gonna be putting in alfalfa on the bottom side of that switchgrass. Now I've also got a switchgrass inside corner here where I've added that element of cover where the deer are now feeling comfortable to cut across that top and pull them up off that top for a really good rut cruising location, because I've got that soft edge, that switchgrass on that inside corner. Now this is a really good corner for early season where there's maybe beans in here on that rotation year. It's a really good inside corner for that because I've got bedding all the way down through here. I've also got bedding in front of me on a big hillside south facing. But basically what I want to do here is I want to connect these two big blocks of timber. I've got this big ag field here. The deer don't generally want to just cross this in broad daylight. That's why I'm creating this edge. I'm putting screen along here. I'm going to add some food value. Maybe I'll come in here with some apples or plums or peaches, pears, whatever that may be. I'm going to come in here. I'm going to plant this up. You know, I'm going to start this process now, because anytime we're talking about planting trees or creating habitat changes or executing a plan for wildlife on a property, it's going to take time. We need to be planning for the future, because none of this happens overnight. Like I've talked about before, you need to have a good solid plan. You need to be able to look ahead and be forward thinking on what you want to see in the future and start today. You know, there's a good saying that goes, the best time to plant a tree was 10 years ago, the second best time is today. So we need to remember that when we're going to start implementing habitat techniques on a property. We got to have a good solid foundation, we got to have a good plan, and then we got to execute, right? So like I said, I'm going to be coming in here with pine trees. I want to explain this to you guys because I think it's super important to get ahead of the game. You know, I'm going to come in here with pine trees. Maybe I'll stick some chestnuts in here too. You know, food producing trees. And then at the same time, I'm going to allow my bramble layer to come up. You know, I've already got some natives coming up in here because it's getting a lot of sunlight with this just being a fence line. But at the same time, I've got some invasive issues too. So I need to get those under control, and I need to promote native regeneration and allow our native habitat to come back. And then with my plantings, all my different solar angles covered. So I'm gonna have my chestnuts as my canopy tree. I'm gonna have a good screening cover with my pines. And maybe I'll add some switchgrass in here, who knows, because I like diversity. I like to have a lot of different things. I don't necessarily just want a strict hard edge. Maybe a switchgrass or a prairie grass blend along here in a strip would be really good for nesting habitat. You know, these turkeys can come in here, they're strutting around in this field. It's really good hen habitat to come and lay a nest in here. And at the end of the day, I'm trying to promote all wildlife, not just deer. I'm trying to promote all wildlife. You know, I love to hunt turkeys as well, and we're getting real close to that season. So what I've seen is the switchgrass and the grass blends that I have out here, that's been a huge impact on the nesting quality. You know, a couple of years ago, I came across a nest of about a dozen turkey eggs right in one of my switchgrass rows. That just speaks volumes as to what, you know, implementing some of these grasses can do for your property and for the benefit of wildlife and the success of those nests hatching, and then at the same time those poults surviving. So yeah, basically what I'm doing is I'm adding edge habitat back where it lacks. You know, I've got a good fence line here, but at the same time it's just not thick enough to really hide those deer and give those deer the security, cover, and the comfort that they need to come out during daylight and give me that good hunting success rate that I'm looking for. So at the end of the day, I'm adding all this habitat back and I'm promoting good wildlife cover and habitat, and at the same time giving me a more successful area to hunt deer or turkeys or whatever that may be. You know, I could probably come in here if I get this all implemented, get this good edge habitat back, this fence line really nice and thick, maybe with some grasses in here. Maybe I'll flesh a grouse or two or a pheasant or two. This isn't just for deer hunting. Is it going to benefit deer? 100%. They're going to want to bounce across this field far more often now that they're going to have good cover, they're going to have food value, and at the same time, unpressured ground back here. It's going to feel like this neighboring property isn't even here because I have that depth. I have that dense, thick depth of cover right here, and they don't have pressure back here. I'm hunting it correctly, and I have food value, I have screening, and I have diversity within this fence line that I'm enhancing. Because if you start driving around in the Midwest here, almost every single field you see, they're trying to remove edge habitat, fence lines, to make it easier to row crop and farm. And that is just a detriment to wildlife and wildlife habitat because we're moving all cover for rabbits, pheasants, turkey poults, grouse, deer with diversity and edge. We're removing all this habitat, and that's the worst thing we can do for our wildlife population. So that's what I wanted to talk to you guys about today. This is my plan for this springtime. I'm going to be coming in here. I'm going to be planting my conifers first and foremost. I'm going to allow those to get a head start. Then I'm going to be coming in here with some orchard edging, some apple trees, some plums, some pears, chestnuts. And then at the end here, maybe I'll come in here with a grass blend and just tie it all together. But we're promoting native regeneration. I'm looking at a few briars right now that have been nipped off at about 18 inches. Deer have been browsing this fence line the way it is, but I'm just going to enhance it and make it even better. And at the same time, now I allow myself to have multiple different hunting opportunities for different winds. I've got corner here where it necks down and it pinches down. It connects a couple different fence lines. Right here, there's a stand location. Now this inside corner gets a whole lot better because now they're going to be coming up through that during daylight. They're going to be crossing that during daylight. They're even going to want to maybe feed along this edge when I got my fruit trees or my chestnuts producing fruit. So when they're talking about adding edge back, or when we're trying to, increase habitat, promote wildlife, this is a great way to do it. But that's kind of what I wanted to show you here is I've got this fence line already, but I'm just enhancing it. I'm making it that much better. I'm using the space that's already here and I'm just making it 10 times better. I'm adding food value. I'm making my land more productive, because at the end of the day, that's what we all want. We want benefit of wildlife, benefit for us hunting, and then a better landscape at the end of the day. So that's kind of what I wanted to go over today. Maybe get the wheels turning in your head about what you guys could be doing on promoting edge habitat and making certain pinch points and edges better for the wildlife on your property. Because at the end of the day, that's what we're all after, is better wildlife and better hunting.